When it comes to payments, nothing new, like seriously new, has been invented since the card schemes were born. The funny thing with human beings is that we are very predictable and we are herd animals, aka pretty stupid, which means that there's a lot of systematics in what we do, why we do it. So there's a lot of predictability. And when there's predictability, you can inject AI. Tech is never the problem. The problem will be the people. We really need to rethink the mentality of being a governmental official, because they are measured on not doing mistakes. And if you can't do mistakes, you can never evolve.
Monika, it's great to see you again. Thank you very much for joining us here in Paris.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
It's always great fun to see you. So I'm looking forward to our chat for today.
Yeah, likewise.
Just again, like usual, just before we start, tell us briefly who you are and what you do.
Yes. So Monika Liikamaa, co-founder and co-CEO of Enfuce. I've been in the payments industry now for, I think it's probably closer to 25 years. So been around the block. So Enfuce does payments, primarily card rails, and we are an issuer ourselves as well, but in the heart of what we do, we are a processor. So we are an issuer processor currently. But of course, one never knows what future holds.
That's very interesting to hear. So let's start by, we have our annual catch-up, and every single time that I meet you, there's so much happening in between.
Yes.
Now, what some of the trends that we hear this year in 2024 in payments have to do with embedded finance. Of course, AI is unavoidable, but also we have regulation coming. So in your view, what's the most impactful trend that we've experienced this year and that will continue into 2025?
That's a good question. I think as we are living in a very turmoil world, where actually now if we look at it, the past 6 months and the next 6 months, half of the world's population will be voting, which means that there's turmoil a lot. And of course, turmoil makes the world a bit interesting in many ways. So I think out of trends, I would probably say that the adoption of AI is a massive trend. I know that there's a lot of hype around embedded finance and stuff like that, but if we are really honest, it's just a new word for old stuff, but the old stuff is becoming useful. So if we think like, again, I've been in the banking for so long, so embedded, like making payments seamless and easy has always been the dream for the many. And now I think the technology, the regulation is there to support it, and there's a lot of great players enabling it. And such, I do think that, for example, the buy now, pay later trend and how they started building, and Klarna has done an awesome job also in the user experience of that. So I do think that will continue. And of course, I know there's a lot of hype around account to account, PSD3. Again, I was a banker when PSD came about, then went into the open banking when PSD2 came. Now PSD3, I think now it starts to become a version that will make sense. It is there to really enable also payment institutions and EMIs like ourselves to get better access to safeguarding. Like banks need to service us more, because I think for many good reasons they have been very, let's say, risk adverse, or then the ones like Silicon Valley Bank hasn't been risk adverse enough. It's an interesting time to be alive, and the change is very fast, and yet it could be faster. And I do think that living in Europe and in Nordics, actually, we are very compliance driven, and sometimes I know that many of us think that that's a bad thing, but if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Right, okay, so that's an interesting observation. Okay, now, if this year and probably last year, it's been unavoidable hearing about AI. AI
Yes.
this, AI that.
Yes.
I think people are getting already a little bit fed up with AI. From your perspective, has it really delivered anything in payments?
I would say, put it like this. AI is a tool, when used well, it can do a lot of good. So if I look at what Enfuce uses AI for, we work a lot together with Featurespace on we call it fraud monitoring, but we also inject AI into KYC, like customer envoy, understanding who we serve and the transaction that happens. And with that, we can actually do a lot of good, like fight human trafficking. We see an increase in human trafficking in Europe. We see an increase in terrorist financing and money laundering issues. We've seen a lot of the challenges. I think injected and adopted well, that's where AI brings massive value, because it sees patterns much faster than a human or machine learning. So AI is just a version of machine learning. It learns faster because of the capacity it has and the algorithm and data model it has. We use a lot of AI also in how we communicate towards our customers. So the customer support, the quality of responses, because you can also put AI to fetch data from your own repository. So like from our own data sources, it can much faster fetch, aka people can learn faster, answer better, and then they can focus on the business case analysis, thinking of how can we actually serve our customers and take all those, let's say, must-have good stuff can be performed. I think like 10 years ago, robotics was a hype word. Right. With the bank, like, oh, we're going to put in robots and it's going to take care of everyone. And I don't even know how many actually did it. So I think all in all, AI is just another word for advanced machine learning. But it is a good tool when used well. And what we have also done is that machine learning and then AI, you need to use it to be comfortable. I think the younger generation, like my kids, the younger ones, they're like, why do we, like if we used to say like Google it, they will use AI for it. And then they're like, well, why do we need to learn so much stuff in school? I think that the key element in school is to learn what is fake and not, to learn critical thinking. Right. Because that you can't get from AI, at least for now.
For now, yes. Now, do you think AI will have an impact on our embedded future as we talk about embedded finance?
Definitely, because I think what it can do in many ways, it knows, like the funny thing with human beings that we are very predictable and we are herd animals, aka pretty stupid, which means that there's a lot of systematics in what we do, why we do it. So there's a lot of predictability. And when there's predictability, you can inject AI. So if you just would think like, what would you like to have in your everyday life and how could it become better, faster, and you could focus on the things that really matter. I do think AI can bring a lot of help in that. So like, what do I buy, when do I buy, do the payments for that buying, do my finances, etc., and understand what my capability to buy and finance something is. I do think there's a lot of use cases in AI on the consumer side, but then you take that and then you put it on the corporate side. And in the corporate side, you can also see like, not maybe every company, but we want to be sustainable. We want to change the world, like ESG reporting. Now the ESG reporting, there will come this new regulation, which I don't remember the exact regulation, but if you are putting out an ESG report and you actually lie and you get caught, at worst you will pay a fine up to 5% of your revenue, which is like the GDPR. So I'm actually pretty happy about that. It's not going to impact all companies, but if you take that and then you think about what AI can do to drive that data collection in the everyday life, I do think there's a massive amount of use case that it can be adopted. I think the only thing is that as human beings, the many people of us are still scared of it and unfamiliar. So my advice is just start using it. Just start using it.
All right, now let's talk about regulation, because we're in Europe and we love regulation.
Yes, we love it.
So there's a number of regulations that are coming up at the end of this year or next year. We have PSD3.
Yep.
We have the AI Act.
Yes.
How will this impact payments in particular?
Yeah, I think the actual impact is still remains to be seen, but I think in general with regulation, I do think that the PSD3 is a good one because it's not the first version. The AI Act will need to evolve because AI, quantum computing, everything is evolving. So that's the first version, and PSD3 is the third version. aka we have learned and seen like all the things we wanted with the Payment Service Directive. We were like, this is what we wanted, and then we saw, didn't happen. Came PSD2. We were like, okay, still not very good. Then comes PSD3. I think all in all, what we need to remember is that regulation is there to protect something. So the intention is good. But of course, one of the biggest challenges is that, like, if we just look at Europe, we are many countries, many cultures, and we have many, let's say, governing bodies who see it differently because it's always a written format. So time will tell what it will mean. So in practice, a lot of new stuff will be born and a lot of it will die.
Okay.
But that's what happened. Like if you think about open banking coming in, like the promise of open banking and everything, like in fact it's going to change the world. It kind of didn't.
Right.
Some survived and some didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's how that's called evolution.
Right. Okay, now over the past year, we've seen a very interesting trend popping up in the Nordics where we've seen alliances being formed by financial services and by companies outside of financial services like retailers, like mobility companies, where basically they're joining forces and bringing the capabilities together to create very specialized solutions for their industries. Is this going to impact the way that the PSPs and other payment suppliers work, or where do you see this trend going?
And now I'm probably a bit irrealist or pessimistic or whatever. Like, I think it's awesome. Like, every time I hear something new popping up, it could be the next Swiss or Whips or something, or then it might not. So I think all in all, it's great to see companies who feel that the service that they require for their business case doesn't exist, and they go into partnership and try to build it themselves. Again, looking at what I've been doing for many years, I think they just sucked at buying.
Right, okay.
Which means that they haven't been able to scope their stuff in a way that someone else understands it. Because I don't want to be the one, but when it comes to payments, nothing new, like seriously new, has been invented since the card schemes were born.
Okay.
If we're really honest, what is new? Everything else is some kind of adoption, and I think in the end of the day, that's fine. But if we're really honest, if you think about real-time payments globally, the schemes rule. Why? Because they structured it the way that they operate more or less as a central banks. They set the rules and regulations. They sit on the clearing and settlement. And then we have country-specific or region-specific, account to account and all of that, SEPA direct or whatever. And that's fine, and that's really good. But if we take it from a big picture, like if I would be an alien coming to Earth and look at it, I would see a lot of random shit happening, and then I would see the card scheme payment being the only one working. And I know it's an unpopular opinion, but P27 was a great idea, poorly executed, and now dead.
Yes. True. Now, you just made an analogy about how the schemes have worked almost as a central bank.
Yes.
Do you think that maybe CBDCs will become that step innovation that will perhaps...
Let's put it like this. I would maybe hope so, but again, being old enough and understanding that politics, central banks, fuck no, not gonna happen. And I might be wrong, and if I'm wrong, awesome. If I'm right, told you so.
Right.
Because I think that's a challenge. Like anything a central bank tries to do, the central bank officials are politicians. They are elected or chosen by something. The scheme's a business. And it's very different to do things from a business lens or then trying to be in power. So I'm sorry to say, I don't believe it, but I'm happy to be wrong in this.
Right. I really love your stance as a behavioral economist. I fully understand it. Like we're so we're herd mentality.
Yes. And I've seen it too many times. Like I think persons are biased, and I think one thing that I've learned as an entrepreneur over the years, I understood it, but I really didn't get it. Is really this, that people in the end, they want to do something meaningful, but what that is and how that aligns with the company is a big challenge, which also means that it's all about bringing value to the table, and that's the market for, like, what do I bring? And when it comes to regulation and central banks, etc., they aren't measured by that. It's the culture. And I remember I was once talking about it, but we had some challenges internally, and we were talking about it. But it's so funny that the same challenges remain, even though none of the same people is there. And then it becomes culture. So it becomes embedded. So when you come to a big corporation and start working, or you come as a governmental official, you will always have the people who have been there for many, many years, who have always done it like that, who are a little bit higher in the position than you are. So when you come as a new one, so I was Enfuce was part of really setting a vision for Finland for 2040. And one thing that we really brought strongly to the table from Enfuce side is that we really need to rethink the mentality of being a governmental official, because they are measured on not doing mistakes. And if you can't do mistakes, you can never evolve. And as such, I don't believe in the central bank stuff.
Oh, that's very wise. That's really, really insightful.
Yeah.
Okay, Monika, I know that you're always very passionate about ESG.
Yes.
Let me ask you, what excites you the most today and for the rest of 2024 and looking towards 2025?
Well, definitely fighting human trafficking, money laundering, and terrorist financing. I mean, like in the world where we live in, which is in turmoil, but also the fact that we have a war in Europe, and we see a lot of people being trafficked from Asia to UK and also in the Nordics to do stuff where they don't get paid. For example, it's a sad story, but berry picking in the Nordic, it might sound really crazy, but we have a lot of people that we import from Thailand, etc. And what happens easily is that they don't get paid enough, and then they are in debt, and that is human trafficking. When we import people to do the work that we don't do ourselves, and we don't pay them enough. Right. And those are the things that we see. And from our side, as we do governmental disbursements and we do Red Cross payments, etc., that's where we are focusing really hard now. That we have this goal that anyone using our services to issue money and onboard customers, we will be very, very strict on fighting money laundering, fighting human trafficking and terrorist financing. However, focus on financial inclusion, because I think that's a problem in general in payments, whether it be B2B or B2C. There is this thinking that usability, speed, and accuracy and fighting, that they are in conflict. It's not true. Especially in today's world where we have AI, it's just when you have a shitty processor, so you should come to us.
Amazing, Monika. Can't wait. And I'll be looking forward to our yearly catch-up again next year.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much.